A dying man in Dubai has less than 3 days left before his window closes. Somewhere on an encrypted device, a photo just landed. A 24-year-old day laborer in Bangladesh, tissue match confirmed, blood type confirmed, otherwise perfectly healthy. He has no idea his profile is being studied. He has no idea a surgical team more than 1,000 miles away is already scrubbing in. And he has no idea that within a day, he'll open his eyes in a clinic bed with a wound he never consented to. You're not the one holding the scalpel. You're not the one on the table either. You're the middleman, the fixer who engineers the match, arranges the transport, pockets the largest share, and vanishes before the questions start. The underground organ market moves an estimated $20 billion a year. The World Health Organization puts the number of illicit transplants somewhere north of 10,000 annually, about one every hour of every day, and every single one needs somebody exactly like you. Here's how it works, one rung at a time. Rung 1, the scout. You don't begin with a blade. You begin with small talk. You're 23, broke, living in a city that swallows a fresh wave of migrant workers every single day, men arriving by the busload with no contacts, no documents, nothing but hunger, and a willingness to trust the first friendly face. That's your opening. A well-dressed stranger found you in a tea stall 3 weeks back. Said he represented a medical research outfit looking for study volunteers, nothing invasive, just routine blood work, and it paid. All you had to do was bring bodies. So you start haunting the bus terminal each morning, scanning for young men traveling solo, nobody expecting them, nobody who'd notice if they didn't call home. You hand them what they're missing: a hot meal, a bed, maybe a whisper of construction work. Trust builds fast when someone's desperate. A day or two in, you float the study. Easy cash, you tell them. Just a blood draw. They say yes. You log their name and blood type, fire off a text, and 300 lands in your palm. The UN has documented this pattern extensively. Trafficking rings overwhelmingly target the displaced, the undocumented, and the destitute. And the scouts who deliver them are almost always locals, cab drivers, hostel clerks, clinic staff, people embedded in the streets who know precisely who won't be missed. You tell yourself you don't know the whole story. Not for certain. These are just volunteers for a health study. That's the line you repeat like a bedtime prayer. But there's one fact you can't talk yourself out of. 14 men. 3 months. 14 men you walked into that clinic, and not one of them has ever walked back out to the terminal. You stopped asking why a while ago. Rung 2, the closer. Now it's not enough to find them, you have to sell them on it. You've been bumped up. The man from the tea stall trusts you now, and he's handed you a bigger job in the same rotten world. More money, more risk. Your targets are no longer random. You're hunting specifics now. A father who can't cover his daughter's surgery. A refugee $5,000 short of a smuggler's fee. A laborer who hasn't sent a rupee home in months and knows his kids are going hungry. You tell them there's a way out. 1 kidney. A quick, licensed procedure. 2 weeks to heal. $10,000. You will never pay them $10,000. Once they're stitched up, groggy, terrified, and too weak to argue properly, you'll press an envelope with $2,000 into their hands and call it final. Some will fight you on it. Some will break down crying, but they just lost an organ. They can barely stand upright, and they sign paperwork half of them couldn't even read. This isn't hypothetical. In the Real Medicus Clinic case out of Kosovo, prosecutors found that recruiters had dangled promises as high as $20,000 to donors flown in from Turkey, Moldova, and Russia, most of whom received a fraction of that, and some nothing at all, before being bussed away once the surgery was done. Your own cut runs $1,000 to $5,000 a head, and the strange part is, it's getting easier. The lies come smoother every time. That's the detail that should terrify you, if you still let yourself feel things. One night your phone rings. It's one of yours, a young father, sobbing. Something's gone wrong inside him. He's in agony, can't work. Can't even pick up his own daughter anymore. He's begging. You listen for 11 seconds, then you block the number because that's easier than sitting with what you did to him. By morning, there's already a new name waiting on your screen. Rung 3, the logistics man. An organ is worth nothing if it doesn't arrive alive. You've climbed again, no more sit-downs with weeping fathers or refugees. Your world now is cooler boxes, flight manifests, customs desks, and encrypted countdowns measured in hours. Here's a fact most people never think about. A kidney holds up in cold storage for roughly 24 to 36 hours. A liver, about 12. A heart, maybe 4 to 6 at the outside. The moment it leaves the body, the clock is running, and every wasted minute pushes you closer to a ruined transaction and a piece of dead tissue nobody can use. Keeping that from happening is entirely your job. You've got relationships at 3 private clinics spread across 2 countries. You've got a cargo handler at a major airport who tags your shipments as biological research material and never asks a follow-up question for $5,000 a cooler. He doesn't need to. Your encrypted line runs on code words. Package ready means the harvest is done. Delivery window means the recipient's prepped and the surgical team is gowned up. Clock started means you're already behind. According to the UNODC, a single organ trafficking transaction routinely stretches across 5 or more countries: recruitment in 1, surgery in another, transit through a 3rd, transplant in a 4th, launder payment in a 5th. You're the wire connecting every node. Then, one Tuesday, it nearly falls apart. A shipment gets flagged in Istanbul Customs, a routine spot check, and now your cooler is sitting on a steel table while an officer decides whether to crack it open. You've got 6 hours of viability left, and the delay is already burned through 3. The buyer, a man who paid $300 for this, is already under anesthesia in a private surgical suite, chest prepped, team scrubbed, and waiting. You place a call to a customs contact you've never used before. You name a figure. Silence stretches out on the line. Then, okay. The cooler makes the flight. The transplant goes forward with 40 minutes of viability to spare. You pour yourself a drink afterward. Your hand doesn't shake. It should. It doesn't. Rung 4, the compromised physician. Every black market organ eventually needs a trustworthy pair of hands to put it where it belongs. You're not that surgeon, you're something more useful. You're the one who makes it possible for the surgeon to exist in this world at all. You keep a rotating bench of 3 to 5 surgeons scattered across different countries. Some lost their licenses to malpractice or scandal. Others are respectable by daylight, operating at legitimate hospitals, and something else entirely after dark in your facilities. What unites all of them is simple. Their need for money has outgrown whatever conscience they started with. You handle the staging, sometimes a real private clinic rented for the night, sometimes a converted apartment fitted out with medical-grade equipment bought through shell companies. Anesthesia siphoned from hospital stock, sterile instruments, blood on hand, everything a surgeon needs to do the job properly. The buyer gets a 5-star experience private recovery suite, round-the-clock monitoring, a follow-up call from the clinic. They fly home believing they visited a top-tier medical facility. The donor gets sewn shut, handed an envelope, and shown the door. This isn't invented in 2013. A Kosovo court convicted the lead surgeon behind the Medicus Clinic scheme for performing illegal transplants on trafficked donors. From the street, that clinic looked entirely legitimate, licensed, polished, professional. Underneath, donors had been flown in on false pretenses, cut open, and discarded. Then the thing you always knew could happen, happens. A donor codes on the table cardiac arrest mid-extraction. The surgeon freezes, looks up at you with bloody gloves, and says the sentence you've been dreading your whole career. Now you're holding an unidentified corpse, an off-the-books clinic with 0 paper trail, and in the next room, a recipient already prepped a family that paid $400,000 Alvand and is waiting on an organ currently sitting inside a dead man. You've got 90 minutes to make it disappear or watch the whole operation collapse. Every eye in that room, the surgeons, the anesthesiologist, lands on you, because you're the one who decides whether this gets buried or blows up. And somewhere in that 90 minutes, it hits you. You stop being anything resembling a medical professional a long time ago. You're a machine now, and machines don't stop when a component fails. They just swap it out. Rung 5, the broker. You sit at the center of it all, and nobody can see you. No one even knows your real name. You've never handled an organ, never met a donor, never once set foot in an operating theater. Your office is a hotel suite, your tools are an encrypted laptop and a phone that changes numbers monthly. You take meetings over wine that costs more than your first scout earns in a month, discussing medical tourism packages like you're selling timeshares. You're the seam between 2 separate worlds. On one side, dying clients with unlimited resources executives, politically connected families, industrialists from the Gulf, Europe, East Asia, people with no patience for a legitimate transplant list. In the US alone, the average wait for a kidney runs 3 to 5 years. UNODC estimates roughly 17 Americans die every day still waiting for a donor organ that never arrives. Your clients have no intention of becoming one of the 17. On the other side, your supply scouts working the streets of Egypt, surgeons on retainer in Turkey, coordinators shepherding coolers through Southeast Asia, clinics in Eastern Europe that materialize for a job and vanish the moment it's done. A typical transaction plays out like this. A patient in Riyadh needs a liver. You put out the call. Within 2 weeks, your network turns up a match in the Philippines. You choreograph the harvest, the transport, the surgery, the recovery. Total price tag to the buyer, $500,000. Your take, $100,000, minimum. Real precedent exists here too. In 2009, Levi Isaac Rosenbaum became the first person convicted of organ trafficking on U.S. soil after running a broker operation for over a decade behind the mask of a legitimate medical facilitator. You've told yourself you're sharper than he was. New phone every 2 weeks, never more than a month in one country. Everything routed through encrypted channels, no digital trail worth mentioning. You've quietly moved roughly 200 organs across 11 countries in 4 years without leaving a single print. Then, a journalist starts poking around one of your clinics, and a recruiter in your carousel gets picked up by local police. You have no idea what he said, whether he's mentioned your voice, your code name, your methods. You never left a fingerprint. But that recruiter knows exactly what you sound like, and right now, he's sitting across the table from Interpol. Rung 6, the architect. You've stopped dealing in individual organs entirely. Kidneys and livers, one at a time, are beneath you now. What you've built is bigger, a sprawling, multinational operation, multiple broker cells working different regions, recruiter pipelines spanning 3 continents, surgeons kept on permanent retainer, and money laundering channels routed through medical tourism companies, health consultancies, and charitable foundations that look spotless on paper. You've cultivated relationships with health ministry officials who make sure inspectors never reach your facilities, hospital administrators who quietly loan out operating rooms after visiting hours, and banking contacts who move funds through jurisdictions built for exactly this purpose. You've even built a pricing tier. Kidneys are the entry product, livers cost more, hearts sit at the very top reserved for clients wealthy enough to afford them, sourced from donors desperate enough to provide them. The UNODC has drawn the same comparison. Large-scale trafficking networks increasingly mirror the structure of legitimate multinational corporation supply chains, quality assurance, customer service, finance departments. The only difference is that the product used to be a living person. You started investing in the future, to identifying promising young surgeons in developing countries, funding their training, and once they're qualified, binding them to your network. Loyalty gets some of them. Debt gets others, blackmail gets the rest, and the moment any of them performs their first illegal procedure, they belong to you because now they're as guilty as you are. You even keep a legitimate-looking front, an office with your company's name on the glass, a website full of stock photo patients smiling, business cards you hand out at medical conferences. Then your phone rings. The government minister who's been shielding your operations just lost his re-election bid. His replacement is a reformer who's already promised to crack down on medical corruption, someone who owes you nothing and doesn't know you exist. Your protection is gone overnight, and you've got 3 transplant operations actively in motion in that country this month. You built a machine that shuttles organs across borders like freight efficient, invisible, relentless. But the one person keeping that machine's engine running just got voted out, and you have 72 hours to shut everything down before the new administration finds what you left behind. The machine itself doesn't feel fear. Tonight, for the first time in longer than you can remember, you do. Rung 7, the client who never gets his hands dirty. At the very top of the pyramid, you don't run any part of the network. You are the demand it exists to satisfy. And here the story flips, because now you're not the broker, the scout, or the surgeon. You're the billionaire. Your physician sits you down in a private consultation suite inside a hospital wing that bears your name because you funded it. Kidney failure, he tells you. Progressive. Irreversible. The legitimate transplant list runs 4 to 5 years. Your doctors give you maybe 18 months. Your kids are 12 and 15. If this year takes you, your youngest may barely remember your face, so you make one call. Not to a hospital, to a number you got from someone who got it from someone who owed you a favor. Within a week, a broker reaches out on a secure line. calm and businesslike, laying out options like a menu, a match in Egypt, another in the Philippines, a third in Eastern Europe, compatibility rates, surgeon credentials, recovery timelines. You don't ask where the kidney is coming from. You don't ask who's giving it up, or whether they had any real choice in the matter. You ask about success rates. You ask about the quality of aftercare. You ask how soon it can happen. 2 weeks later, you're at a private clinic that looks in every visible way, legitimate gleaming corridors, modern equipment, courteous staff. You go under, you wake up alive. Your recovery suite could pass for a boutique hotel room, flowers on the side table, a doctor checking on you every 4 hours. You fly home. Your kids meet you at the airport and hold on tight. Somewhere in a part of that city you will never visit, someone you will never meet, is waking up with a scar he didn't choose, holding a fraction of the money he was promised by people who knew from the start he might never see the rest. If something goes wrong for him, infection, organ failure, chronic pain, there's no doctor to call and no file with his name on it. As far as any system is concerned, he was never there. 3 months later, you're scrolling the news and a trafficking ring gets busted in the same country, at a clinic that sounds a lot like the one where you had your surgery. Arrests, investigations, accounts of coerced donors, accounts of donors who didn't make it. You look down at the scar that saved your life, and just for a second, you let yourself wonder, whose kidney is this? Is he even still alive? Then you close the browser. You go pick your daughter up from school. You never look the story up again because you're alive, and you tell yourself that has to be enough, even knowing it isn't. Coda. Right now, while you're taking all of this and it's happening again, a different dying billionaire, a different city, a different diagnosis, a different call placed to a number that exists in no directory anywhere. And 6,000 miles away, a young man steps off a bus into a city that swallows thousands like him every day. No phone, no papers, no one waiting for him. Just a need for work and a sliver of hope. A stranger finds him in a tea stall, smiles, offers food, mentions a health study that pays. The young man hesitates, then he nods. The wheel keeps turning. This system has no top and no bottom, only poverty on one end and wealth on the other, with a whole underground economy of scouts, closers, surgeons, and brokers ferrying the most valuable commodity on the planet between them in coolers across borders through hands that were never supposed to touch it. Every person hearing this is carrying that commodity right now, and demand has never been higher.